This happened a few years ago. I was 32 at the time, planning a camping trip with some old college friends in the Oregon woods. We wanted to escape city life and reconnect with nature. I wasn't an expert camper, but I was comfortable enough. I still think about what happened that weekend. When we got to our campsite, the sun was setting. Long shadows stretched between the tall Douglas firs. We set up our tents and gathered around the fire. The sound of crackling wood mixed with our laughter. It smelled like pine and smoke, and everything felt right. But then, as night fell, I saw flickering shadows moving just beyond the trees. I told myself it was probably my friends playing tricks, but I felt like I was being watched. As we settled in for the night, something felt off. A friend started sharing a ghost story, and the woods felt too quiet. Around midnight, I thought I heard whispers. I wasn't sure. It felt like the sounds were echoing my own fears. I glanced around at my friends, their faces lit by the fire. We tried to keep the mood light, but tension hung thick in the air. Then I heard it. A child's laughter. It was soft and clear, sending chills down my spine. I turned to look behind the trees, but nothing was there. I laughed it off, trying to convince myself I was just tired. But the sound lingered. It was faint but persistent, like it wanted me to notice. The next evening, we found an old, weathered notebook buried under some leaves. One friend opened it. The pages were filled with strange symbols and frantic handwriting. It felt wrong. I flipped through the pages, anxiety creeping in. My friends started sharing darker stories, and I felt the shadows around us grow. That night, the whispers returned. They slithered through the trees. I heard names being called and glimpsed movement that vanished when I looked. My heart raced. I thought about leaving, but I didn't want to alarm anyone. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks. Then one of my friends said, "Do you hear that?" I looked around, panic rising. It was then I realized we weren't alone. The darkness felt alive. And then I heard the laughter again, clearer this time, coming from just behind me. I turned around, heart pounding, but no one was there. My friends noticed me acting strange. "You okay?" one asked, and I nodded. I couldn't speak. The laughter echoed again. It sounded like it was right next to me, but when I turned, nothing was there. I wanted to scream, to pull my friends away, but a part of me was frozen. As the fire flickered, I felt the weight of the shadows. I kept glancing over my shoulder, waiting. Any moment I expected to see something, but I never did. We spent the night jumpy and uneasy. That dark weekend left a mark on me. We laughed it off when we got back, but deep down I knew it wasn't just in my head. The woods had secrets, and I don't know if I want to uncover them. The next day dawned gray and overcast.
My friends suggested we go hiking to clear our heads. I hesitated. The woods felt different now, darker and thicker. But everyone was excited, and I didn't want to seem like the odd one out. So I reluctantly agreed. We packed some snacks and water and set off on a narrow trail that wound through the trees. The whispers from the night before echoed in my mind. I walked a little behind the others, trying to shake off my unease. The canopy above blocked out the sun, casting us into a twilight world. As we walked, one friend, Lisa, found a small clearing. It was beautiful, with wildflowers dotting the ground. "Let's take a break here," she suggested. The others nodded, eager to rest. I sat down on a log, still feeling the chill in the air. I could hear their laughter, but it sounded far away, muffled. That's when I saw it, a flash of white in the underbrush. My heart raced. I turned to point it out to the others, but when I looked back, there was nothing there, just empty space. "Did you see that?" I asked, but they were engrossed in their conversation. I felt foolish. Maybe it was just a rabbit, I told myself. I tried to focus on what they were saying, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. After a few minutes, we continued our hike. Something gnawed at me. I had to know more about the notebook we found. Why did it feel so wrong? I pulled out my phone to look for any information, but I had no signal. I cursed under my breath. It was going to bother me, and we still had a day left in the woods. The trail led us deeper, and the trees closed in around us. It began to feel claustrophobic. I heard whispers again, low and indistinct, weaving around us. I paused. "Can you hear that?" I asked. "What?" Noah replied, brows furrowed. "You okay?" "It sounds like, I don't know, whispers?" They glanced at each other, but Lisa smiled. "It's probably just the wind." I forced a smile back, but dread settled in. Then, in the quiet, a child's laughter rang out again. It was closer this time. I shivered. I looked around, desperate for reassurance. Noah was getting agitated. "Can we turn back? This place is creeping me out." Relief washed over me, but Lisa insisted, "Just a little farther. We have to see what's at the top." I wanted to argue, but something in the air held me back. So we pressed on. Finally, we reached a rise. Just beyond it, there was a wider view of the valley below. We all stood side by side, gazing out. It was stunning, but it felt wrong somehow. Then everything changed. Dark clouds rolled in quickly, blotting out whatever light had remained. The air thickened and the temperature dropped. In the growing shadow, I heard the distinct sound of footsteps behind us. My breath caught. I spun around, but the clearing was empty. My friends were still staring out into the valley, oblivious. And then I heard the laughter again, clear and mocking, like it was right next to me.
And then, just as panic began to claw at my mind, I broke into a run. My friends followed closely, the sharp sounds of our feet hitting the ground drowning out the laughter. Then it happened. The trees shifted, the path broke apart, and we stumbled into a clearing. It was small and circular, the ground chill and uneven. In the center was an old, charred fire pit surrounded by rotting logs. "Where are we?" Lisa panted, looking around, her eyes wide with horror. "I don't know," I admitted, chest heaving, "but we shouldn't have come this far. We need to get out of here." Just then, the light flickered again. It was closer, almost undulating with a life of its own. And now the laughter echoed again, ringing in our ears, this time sounding like a chorus. That's when I noticed something on the ground, half buried beneath the leaves. My stomach dropped. It was fabric, torn and stained with something dark. Panic surged anew. I reached for it, but Lisa yanked my arm back, her eyes wide. "Let's go, now." But the woods had other plans. The laughter rose to a deafening crescendo. Suddenly, the shadows around us shifted and began to coalesce, forming shapes that felt impossibly close. We had walked into something we could not fully understand, and now, whatever was in the woods with us was waking up. I held my breath, frozen in place as the shadows danced around us. It felt like time had slowed, each moment stretching painfully long. Just as I was about to scream, the laughter faded into whispers, and the shadows retreated. I blinked, trying to comprehend what I was seeing, but my mind fought against the strain. Then I saw it. A figure emerged from behind a gnarled tree. It was small, almost childlike, but its features were obscured in the dim light. My heart raced again, the irrational sense of dread wrapping around me like a heavy cloak. "Guys," I stammered, my voice shaky, "what is that?" Noah squinted, his eyes wide with confusion. "I can't tell. It looks like a kid, but—" He didn't finish. "Why would a kid be out here?" Lisa asked, her voice small. "We need to leave, now." But just as we turned to flee, the flickering light grew brighter, illuminating the clearing and the small figure before us. It giggled, a sound both innocent and deeply ominous, echoing off the trees. I felt ice creep through my veins. "Stay together," I whispered, gripping Lisa's arm tighter. Panic threatened to overtake me, but I fought it down, forcing myself to look at the little one. "Excuse me, are you lost?" The figure tilted its head, and for just a moment I saw its eyes. They shone like dark pools, and I could swear they glinted with mischief. My gut twisted, and the laughter bubbled up again. A chorus of voices layered over one another, weaving tales I couldn't grasp. "Help us!" It flickered in and out of the shadows, a blur of movement. "No!" Noah shouted, stepping forward in defiance. "We don't want to play. We need to go home." But just as we turned to flee, the flickering light grew brighter, illuminating the clearing and the small figure before us. It giggled, a sound both innocent and deeply ominous, echoing off the trees. I felt ice creep through my veins. "Stay together," I whispered, gripping Lisa's arm tighter. Panic threatened to overtake me, but I fought it down, forcing myself to look at the little one. "Excuse me, are you lost?" The figure tilted its head, and for just a moment I saw its eyes. They shone like dark pools, and I could swear they glinted with mischief. My gut twisted, and the laughter bubbled up again. A chorus of voices layered over one another, weaving tales I couldn't grasp. "Help us!" It flickered in and out of the shadows, a blur of movement. "No!" Noah shouted, stepping forward in defiance. "We don't want to play. We need to go home."
The laughter stopped abruptly. Iwan, though all blood, grew thick with an unsettling silence. It was as if the woods held its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then the ground trembled beneath us. The old fire pit shook, its stones vibrating as if they were alive. I stumbled back, feeling the cold earth pull at my feet. Just when I believed we had all our bearings, the shadows lunged. Shapes poured forth, emerging from every corner of the clearing, tall and twisting. Familiar faces, tauntingly jovial, emerged one by one from the darkness, eyes glimmering like the child's. They danced and swirled around us, laughter mixing with noises of the forest. "You can't leave," a voice sang out, high and piercing. "Stay with us." My heart raced. I struggled against Lisa's grip, feeling the urge to run, but the figures blocked our path. Each was indistinct, yet somehow all too real, their forms shifting like smoke. We weren't alone, not at all. "Back!" I yelled, and we pivoted, sprinting the opposite way from the light. The laughter turned into a cacophony, shrieking and howling, pushing us deep into the forest. Branches whipped against us as we fought our way through the chaos. but the path was gone. We were lost in a maze of trees. In the distance, I saw the flicker again, but this time it burned brighter, sudden and fierce. It felt like a beacon, a dreadful invitation. My feet carried me toward it before I could think better of it. "Stop! That's not the way!" Noah cried, but the words were lost to the deepening shadows. I stumbled, falling into the clearing again, but this time I wasn't alone. The figures surrounded me, their faces now clear and filled with something unrecognizable and terrifying. That was when I realized I hadn't just walked into the woods. I had walked straight into their game. The laughter crescendoed, filling the air with an almost tangible energy that made every hair on my body stand on end. I was trapped. The circle had closed around us, and I could feel the weight of their intent pressing down. "Let us go!" I shouted, my voice breaking. Watered by fear, my courage wavered. The figures swayed, echoing my desperation with mocking laughter. "Why would we ever let you leave?" one of them replied, its voice sweet yet menacing. Its eyes glimmered, a reflection of twisted joy that made my stomach turn. Noah pulled Lisa close, and I could see the panic in their eyes, mirrored in my own. "We need to fight back," Noah insisted, but fear made it hard to think clearly. I scanned the clearing for anything we could use. Just beyond the figures, past the chaos, lay the flickering light, pulsing like a heartbeat. It beckoned me, and a part of me felt drawn to it, as if it offered a clue to our survival. The urge to obey competed with the urge to flee. "Look," Lisa pointed toward the glowing embers of the fire pit that had trembled moments before.
Each word dripped with malice, echoing through the clearing. My heart raced. "What kind of game?" I managed to ask, hoping to stall for time. "Only the best ones, the ones where you have to survive." Fear turned to determination. "We're not playing your games. Let us go!" I shouted, my voice shaky but defiant. The laughing shadows resumed their mocking laughter, encircling us once more, inching closer. "Do you think you can resist? You will play, whether you want or not," the figure said, raising a hand that seemed to stretch into the darkness, beckoning the other figures toward us. They formed a new line just beyond the flickering flames. The light cast long, eerie shadows that danced wildly, swaying as if alive. I felt trapped between fear and the instinct to fight back. "This is about us, together," I reminded Noah and Lisa, desperation lacing my words. "We stand united. It can't overpower all of us." The dark figure tilted its head, analyzing us. "Unity may keep you together for a time, but choices define your fate, and you'll have to make some very soon." Without warning, the ground shifted violently again. Grasping for support, I stumbled, almost falling. The fire flickered ominously, casting strange, wavering reflections of the figures. "Hold on!" Noah barked, taking a step toward me. But as he moved, the darkness surged forward, an unseen force pushing him back. "It's like they're feeding off our fear," he said, panic creeping into his voice. "I can't. This isn't happening," Lisa cried, tears brimming in her eyes. Suddenly, the void behind the dark figure began to shimmer, revealing faint images. Each one of us, moments from our lives that haunted us. I could see myself standing alone in an empty room, filled with echoes of laughter that never belonged to me. "Choose a story," it said, its voice slicing through my thoughts. "Choose a path." The fear gripped me again. "What do you mean?" "Every story has a price," the figure whispered, the shadows closing in tighter around us. "Fail to choose, and there will be consequences." That's when everything became clear. The game wasn't just for survival. It was a reflection of our fears, our pasts, twisted into something sinister. The shadows lunged, and I felt that pull again, deeper this time. "Run!" I yelled, trying to break the spell binding us. But as we turned, the flames sputtered, and I realized we were running out of time. The laughter returned, raucous and filled with glee. "Let's see how well you remember your own stories." I felt a surge of desperation. If we were to escape, we had to confront the very darkness that loomed inside each of us. And that was when I heard it, a creeping sound, the crackle of flames fading into an echo. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, and I had this sickening feeling that our pasts were closing in.
"If we only possess it, now!" I yelled, and we sprinted toward the blurry edge of the woods. But before we could step into the safety of the trees, a heavy force slammed into my back, propelling me forward. I tumbled, landing hard on the ground, and felt the shadows creeping closer, filling the air with suffocating dark. "Noah!" I cried out again, desperately twisting to see if he was still behind me. The last thing I heard was that haunting laughter as the shadows swallowed the light completely. Then everything went dark. I gasped as consciousness flooded back in, tasting dirt and smoke on my lips. The darkness was thick, nearly suffocating. I blinked against the dim light filtering through the tree branches. Slowly pushing myself up, I looked around, disoriented. "Noah?" My voice broke the silence, quavering with uncertainty. I had to know if he was okay. I scanned the area, but it felt almost eerily still. The shadows had receded, but an unsettling feeling lingered in the air. Panic tightened my chest again as I remembered the chaos. "Noah!" I shouted, my voice stronger this time. There was nothing but the hollow echo of my voice in reply. I scrambled awkwardly to my feet, shaking off the disorientation. I didn't see either of them. I felt a sense of dread creeping back in, crawling under my skin. Then a movement caught my eye. Branches rustled ahead. I edged closer, heart racing. "Noah?" I called again, trying to keep my voice steady. "Over here," came a faint response. Relief surged through me, and I dashed toward the sound. The dark trees loomed around us, letting few slivers of moonlight through, and I felt the weight of the night bearing down on me. As I pushed through a cluster of bushes, I found Noah crouched low, eyes wide. "What happened?" he asked, panic lacing his voice. "1 second we were, and then it was dark, and—" I cut myself off, realizing the last thing I wanted was to spiral into confusion. "Did you see where Lisa went?" Noah's expression shifted, a flicker of fear dancing in his eyes. "I don't know. I thought she was right behind us." A cold shiver crawled along my spine. We have to find her. She might be in danger. We ventured deeper into the woods, the underbrush cracking beneath our feet. My mind raced with scenarios as I spotted fleeting shadows darting among the trees. What if the darkness takes her? I whispered, a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. I don't think it's gone, Noah replied, glancing around nervously. Suddenly, something rustled nearby, like the whisper of clothes brushing against some dark figure. I stiffened. Did you hear that? Noah nodded, fear etched on his face. We should... Before he could finish, a sharp scream pierced the air, echoing through the trees. It was Lisa, a sound filled with sheer terror. My heart raced. That's her, I shouted, rushing toward the sound. We moved swiftly, darting through the undergrowth, blundering into branches and roots.
Each moment felt like wasted eternity. I could hear Lisa's cries growing fainter, swallowed by the woods. Just then we stumbled upon a clearing, and my heart dropped. There, illuminated por un sliver de luna, was a small, writhing mass on the ground. I rushed forward, but something deep inside me screamed to stop. That was when I saw it. Standing over Lisa was a shadow, larger than anything I had encountered before. It wasn't a simple figment of darkness. It seemed solid, swirling with a life of its own. "No!" I yelled, and I felt Noah grab my arm, holding me back. "We can't go in there," he whispered, face pale. "It's a trap." Panic surged through me, battling the urge to save Lisa. I couldn't just stand by. But before I could think, the shadow turned, noticing us in the moonlight. Its eyes glinted with malice. "Choose," it thundered, voice echoing like thunder. I froze, dread filling me. How could we fight this? And in that moment of indecision, the ground trembled again. I braced myself, terrified of what came next. I felt the ground quake beneath my feet, and the shadows shifted as if the night itself were alive. I could barely breathe. "What does it want from us?" I whispered, glancing at Noah, who looked just as terrified. The shadow loomed larger, twisting upward like smoke from a fire. It pulsated, and I could swear its form rippled with hunger. "Choose," it repeated, low and rumbling. I looked to Lisa, still trapped and terrified, but then my attention snapped back to the shadow. I could feel its gaze sinking into me, probing, searching. "Do we have any choice?" Noah asked, frustration and fear mixing in his voice. "It's not letting her go. We have to do something." My eyes darted around the clearing. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, but there was no help to be found. I searched for something, anything, to turn the odds in our favor. Maybe we can distract it, draw its attention away from Lisa? Noah shook his head. "We're outmatched. What if it chooses us?" I could see the wheels turning in his mind, the same dread filling his eyes. Then I heard Lisa's muffled pleas echoing in my ears. I was torn. The longer I stood there, the more palpable the darkness became. "What do you want?" I shouted at the shadow, clutching on to desperation. "Choose," it growled again, and I felt the ground vibrate. "Us or her?" I pressed, my voice shaky. The shadow flicked an appendage toward me. My stomach twisted. "No!" I screamed. "I won't let you take Lisa." Before I could make a choice, an intense flash of light illuminated the clearing, piercing the darkness, blinding me for a moment.
I shielded my eyes, and when I glanced back, Noah was standing defiantly in front of Lisa, arms raised. "Let her go," he shouted, voice steady, despite the terror written across his face. But the shadow merely laughed, a sound like rustling leaves mixed with a growl.
In time, it promised, as the light dimmed, revealing Noah now entrapped by swirling shadows. "Noah!" I cried, panic flooding me. He struggled against the tendrils wrapping around him. "Run! Get Lisa!" he shouted, desperation lacing his tone. In that moment, I knew I had to act. I rushed forward, determined to reach him, but the shadow pushed back, a wave of dread crashing over me. My heart raced, a pounding reminder of how close we were to hopelessness. The shadow shifted once more, and I realized it was feeding on our fear. I stopped, trying to summon courage. "What do you want?" I yelled again, forcing my voice to remain firm. "Your choice," it crooned. "One will remain, one will fall." I felt the weight of its words, realizing what was happening. It wanted to play us against each other. My mind raced. If I didn't act quickly, I might lose everything. That's when I spotted something on the ground, a glint of silver. A small pocket knife, a remnant from our earlier campfire conversations. Without thinking, I lunged for it, heart pounding as I grasped it tight. "Get away from him!" I shouted, gritting my teeth. The shadow's eyes narrowed, fixated on me, waiting. And then everything began to shift. I wasn't just fighting for Noah anymore. I was fighting for my own life too. With newfound determination, I stood firm, ready to make a choice that would determine our fate. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. The shadow loomed, dark and foreboding, but I wasn't about to let fear dictate my fate. I raised the pocket knife high, its edge glinting in the pale moonlight. "Let him go!" I shouted, voice breaking through the thin veil of night. The air felt electric with the tension that hung between us all. The shadow remained still, as if processing my defiance. "This isn't a game," I continued, breathing unevenly. "You can't take us like this." The deep laughter reverberated again, this time tinged with anger. "You think you can bargain with me? Choose, or they both perish." The dark figure pointed an elongated finger at Lisa, whose cries grew ever softer, muffled beneath the dark shroud that encircled her. "No!" I cried, my hands shaking. The blade trembled, but I held my ground. Thoughts of Noah and Lisa filled my mind, our laughter shared, the memories that bound us as friends, and the way we had hoped this trip would bring us closer. With each recollection, I felt a flicker of resolve. "I can't let you take anyone." "Think, little one," it taunted, as shadows curled closer. And in that moment, clarity washed over me. I dashed forward, ignoring the instinct to flee, fueled by the desperate need to break the binding darkness that threatened to swallow my friends whole. "If someone has to stay," I yelled, "then let it be me." The shadow froze. Somewhere in its depths, I discerned a hint of surprise mingled with malice.
For a single breath, the world held still, before the laughter erupted once more, an unsettling melody that echoed through the forest. "Brave are we, but who will fight for you then?" "I'll fight," I replied, voice firm despite the tremor in my bones. "And I believe my friends will do the same."
The shadow curled back slightly, considering my challenge. Lisa's muffled voice broke through the haze. "No, you don't have to do this," she pleaded, desperation marking her tone. "No, I do. Just trust me." I forced the words out, now standing completely against the swirling mass of darkness. I could feel its weight begin to relent, drawn to my declaration. "In all this chaos, this fear, you thrive. But we aren't afraid. Not anymore." Noah's determined eyes locked with mine, as if he gleaned strength from my conviction. Together, we all shared that flicker of hope, one that danced against the darkness, refusing to be quelled. "Light!" I shouted, holding the pocket knife aloft, a beacon against the shadows. "We have light within us. Together, we can banish you." The figure hesitated, shadows recoiling slightly from the illumination radiating from our unity. "You believe you can extinguish the dark?" it roared, but the malice in its voice quaked. "Yes!" I screamed, and a warmth built within me, drawing strength from our bond. "We believe." The darkness roared in frustration, extending its tendrils to seize us, but something shifted. The warmth transformed into a blinding radiance, piercing through thick shadows and illuminating the chaos. My friends and I formed an unspoken circle, hands clasping tighter, our resolve pushing back against the encroaching void. "Feed on our fear," I taunted, heart racing. "This time we'll feed on your darkness." With that, a surge of energy erupted from us, throwing the shadows backward. They squirmed against the light, releasing shouts of rage that echoed across the clearing. I could feel it, the balance shifting. "No!" the figure screeched, raw panic breaking through its confident tone. "You won't escape!" But it was too late. The figure's form began to dissipate like smoke burnt by an open flame, twisting and unraveling under the combined force of our light. The last cries of the shadow faded, swallowed by a chorus of laughter, now unfurling like a sigh of relief echoing in the night. The clearing began to shift. I could feel the ground solidifying beneath me as the shadows retreated, drawing back into the dark recesses of the forest that could no longer contain us. As the last vestiges of darkness fled, I collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath. The warm light surrounded us, banishing the last remnants of fear. "Are you okay?" I looked toward Noah, who nodded, a cautious smile breaking through his pale features. Did we win?" he asked, his voice shaking and breathless. I could see Lisa coming to her feet, still looking shaken but alive. "We did," she said, uncertain.
Then silence descended around us, the forest alive but eerily quiet, as if it, too, breathed a sigh of relief. I felt an odd sense of calm, disrupted only by the shadows that still lingered at the edges of our vision, a reminder that darkness could be seductive, echoing with echoes of laughter. As we began to regroup, I looked one last time into the woods, wondering about the mysteries hidden in their depths. What were we really up against? Was it just the games of the forest, or something deeper within ourselves? I moved away from the clearing, away from the laughter that had haunted me, towards the fire pit that marked the center of our journey. As we began to walk back, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that the woods would keep their secrets, locking away echoes of the past.
some questions would linger unanswered. I moved to a different city after that, embracing the familiar air of safety again. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I still hear laughter on the wind, a reminder of the darkness I had confronted, and the light that pushed against it. I guess I'll never fully grasp what happened that night in the Oregon woods.